Hi, everybody. I want to thank all of you for coming to today's meeting. We're going to be talking about what the rights and duties and responsibilities are for individuals that are conservators with a conservatee. This is being sponsored by NAMI Urban Los Angeles. There's a lot of gratitude that Gail and I have for all the support that they have given to these programs. With us today, can you see the next slide, please? There we are. So with us today is Marisela Vela. She's with the Department of Mental Health and Public Guardian's Office. Of course, I'm Jim Farell. I'm with the Orange County Conservator Assistance Group, and Gail Evanguelidi, who I think everybody in Los Angeles proper knows who she is. She's just so involved and with so many families and so many different programs supporting a lot more than just conservatorship. She's awesome. So let's go ahead and we'll start today's presentation. Next slide, please. This is also Gail and I put this up. Special thanks to Maddie Cobbs, Harold Turner, who is the president of NAMI Urban Los Angeles, and of course Marisela, who's with us today as well. She's our support in the background and is handling all the tech needs for NAMI Urban Los Angeles. Next slide. So we want to share that we have learned the information that we're going to be presenting to you today, and we're going to be sharing you this information to give you the greatest probability for success for recovery. We'll make suggestions, but ultimately you will have to determine the direction you wish to pursue for your conservatee. And we're going to present the laws that should help guide your decisions. Most information presented pertains to Los Angeles County. For any of you from Orange County, where I am from, just know that what we're going to cover today is applicable to every county in the state of California. So even though we're going to be talking about Los Angeles in terms of resources, the law and responsibilities that we're going to be going over today are applying for everybody online here. So thank you for joining us. Next slide. Whenever you're dealing with a hospital or your loved ones, whether they're in a hospital or any other facility, if you're calling in, to your doctor, what have you, always refer to yourself as being, your son or daughter's or family member's conservator. Don't say this is Jeffrey's mom or that type of thing. Always go by conservator. Also, we suggest that you take the free NAMI family to family classes. They are incredible, and they will highlight you, educate you on medications and all sorts of resources. So if you haven't done that yet, I suggest you go online to NAMI Urban Los Angeles and sign up for a family to family class. Today, we're going to be talking about keeping two journals. One's going to be for the medications that your loved one is on, and the other one will be for every phone call that you make or person that you have talked to about your conservatee. Keep notes, times, dates, that type of thing. It'll come in very, necessary sometimes and very valuable as to who you spoke with. So again, it says keep two journals, medications for observations, and the people whom you have spoken with. We also want to get you motivated to get involved. I mean, if you see that there are challenges with the mental health system, by all means, go to your mental health board meetings, speak out, share with them what your challenges are, speak to your elected representatives and, your senators and so forth. Let them know what our problems are out here and how they can help us by correcting shortfalls that are existent in our communities. Next slide, please. Okay, Marisela. Oh, Marisela, I forgot to tell you that down in the bottom corners, we have like PG, that's public guardian, that'll be you,
Okay.
and so forth. So I'm sorry for that. I apologize. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, not a problem. Sorry, I can't see the PG at the bottom corner.
Oh,
So if you just tell me when to stop, I can do that. So LPS conservatorship is the term used in California for involuntary mental health treatment, named after Landrum and Petrus in short, the legislators who drafted that legislation. Laws are in the California Welfare and Institutions Code, the WIC code 5200 plus. Laws are over 50 years and do not reflect the current scientific research in treatment for recovery. Laws have been revised, but will not take place in Los Angeles or Orange County until January of 2026. Can I get
So
the,
let me just add on
yeah,
that. That's specifically the one that we're really looking at, although there are others, is the definition of gravely disabled. And we'll be talking about that one later. As of January 1st, it's going to include a lot of other things.
right. So it's going to include more, a different addition.
Definition.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definition.
right.
Yeah. So there's forums for conservators. There's a booklet given to conservators. It's helping your loved one, a family guide to conservatorship and involuntary treatment, and it can be found on the internet. We do have an update, I believe, that I believe this link may be the 5th edition, but there's a 10th
A 10th
edition.
edition.
Yeah.
Okay. If we go to that link, will it show us the 10th edition?
When I went to it, I only saw the 5th.
Okay. Do you wouldn't have the link for the 10th edition, do you?
I will. I'll send it. I can add it to the chat in a moment.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Okay. That's when you get your conservatorship. That booklet is very, very helpful. It's got a lot of information and forms, especially when you um, start requesting to renew the conservatorship.
Right. It'll give you a lot of information, contact information, and details about that.
Mhm.
I can now see my notes. Thanks, Jim. I can see where the PG note on the left corner. Thank you.
okay.
Essence of conservatorship.
That's Gail's.
That's
Yeah,
Gail.
that's okay.
Yes, I see.
You're doing very nicely.
Thank you.
The essence of the LPS conservatorship, and by the way, LPS is specific to California. Other states call it different names. I'm in Florida and it's Baker's Act reform. In Louisiana, it was an interdiction. They just have different terms. Some just call it conservatorship or a guardianship. By the way, you do not want a guardianship in the state of California, because if you have that, then anything they do or don't do, um, funds that they might run up, you are responsible for all of that. Under the conservatorship, you are not liable for anything they do, don't do, or any funds. And we'll talk about that later. But the essence of the LPS conservatorship, it is the only program that can actually mandate medication. Now, an attorney in the other programs, AOT, Care Court, they can tell the person that they want them in treatment and they agree to treatment, and treatment is medication. But if they don't take it, there's nothing they can do. With LPS conservatorship, there are things that you can do, and we will be getting into that later. Okay, next slide. Marisela? Hello? Did we lose?
Marcella, I think
Hi, sorry. Norwalk Mental Health Court Department A is where the conservatorship hearings are heard. There's actually two, Department A and Department B. They hear the conservatorship hearings, and it's located at 12720 Norwalk Boulevard, Norwalk, California. And the judges are Judge Scott R. Heron, he's in A, and Judge Renee Gilbertson, she's in Department B. Next page.
Oh, you have two types of the LPS conservatorship. One is of the person and the other one is of the estate. It is only the treating doctor that can initiate the LPS conservatorship. That's not the law. but it's the practice, how they do it. Because if the doctor initiates the LPS conservatorship, they're in the hospital or they're in jail, they're in a lockdown treatment facility. If they don't show up in court, the case is dismissed. So that's why the doctor initiates it from the hospital or the jail, but they only initiate it of the person. If you need it of the estate, when the doctor initiates it with the public guardian's office, because the public guardian does all the research and determines whether this person meets the criteria, and then they petition for a court hearing. But when they do that, you can ask the public guardian to give you the conservatorship of the estate. Now, it doesn't mean that they're living in a $2 million house and you have to deal with that. Debts, school loans, court cases, papers that have to be done, anything legal that has to be done, I would ask for the conservatorship of the estate, and the public guardian can help you get that. If you get the conservatorship, and 2 months down the road, you go, oh my goodness, I didn't know they had all these problems. I have to take care of it. You can go back to the court and you can request the conservatorship of the estate. When it comes to debts, I suggest that you run creditkarma.com or whatever they call that. Get a list of their debts and you can deal with those. Usually you can get like 10 cents on the dollar, 25 cents on the dollar if you have the money to pay for it. If you don't have the money, call the creditors and say, hey, they're under a conservatorship. There is no money. And after 3 years, they'll probably put a judgment on them. But after 3 years, that judgment is gone. It should be gone on their credit. So don't worry about that unless, next year they're making millions of dollars or whatever. But if they haven't gone above the poverty level, then the judgment will be removed and you'll be okay. All right, next slide. A succession. Oh, Marisela?
Yeah. Succession of conservatorship can be changed from the public guardian to responsible person anytime during the year. It can be changed from responsible person to public guardian anytime during the year. Write a letter to the mental health court, Department A or B, and ask for a change in succession. And the court will usually honor the conservatee's request as who they would like to have as conservator.
Jim?
So who should be the conservator? If the public guardian is going to serve as the conservator, excuse me. One of the positive aspects of that is that they're able to place a person in a state-approved facility if it's required, and if they're handling all the problems and all the headaches and all the money, there's a lot less stress on the family member. The downside is that you're not going to be involved in the recovery process. There's absolutely, you have no control over what medications your son or daughter or family member might be on. And so you're just going to be kind of sitting out in the wings, on the sidelines, kind of watching everything going on. But one of the things that if you choose to let the public guardian's office handle everything, it's critically important that you work with whoever is the conservator in the public guardian's office and establish a working relationship with them. Even though they are prohibited by HIPAA laws to give you any information about your family member, you can actually provide them with information and let them know what medications have worked well in the past, what doctors they've worked with, and just try to put out enough information that would be helpful to that public guardian's officer in taking care of your loved one. Next slide.
Yeah. I have to say, in Los Angeles, we are very, very fortunate because our public guardian's office The people who work there are very sharp. They work really hard to help your loved one, and they will work with you. They will try to accommodate you, but if you become a problem, then they'll shut you out. So you want to be respectful. The best thing to do is to write them an email, a short one. They don't want to read a thesis. And ask, their questions, what you need, or let them know what you're concerned about. And they'll respond to that. But if they're out working with their clients, they don't take calls from anybody. So, we're very fortunate because our public guardian's office is amazing here. I've heard of other ones and they're not as pleasant.
Thank
Next
you.
slide.
Thank you, Gail. I was just going to add that, yes, email works best for us because we do go in the field often. So that we get your notification right away. We do check our messages, but email is always the best way to contact us.
Yeah. And when they're in the field, their interest is in the client, not in
Right.
you at that time. Okay, next slide.
Okay, so then you might say, well, gosh, perhaps I should be the conservator. What's involved with that? What are the upshots of that, and so forth. And so basically, you'll be able to have direct contact with the doctor. You can discuss the medications. If things are not progressing well, you can again get back to the doctor and try to work with them. And as a conservator, you actually have the legal right to tell a doctor that there's a medication that they cannot prescribe. And I'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. But actually, it's below. You can reject inappropriate treatment facilities, medications, and treatment processes. Keep in mind that your doctor is a professional. He's trained. He knows all about medications forwards and backwards. He's had years of experience with medications and people that have mental health challenges. And so if there's just a medication out there that I just don't like Latuda, or I just don't like Haldol, so I don't want my son or my daughter on it. You might find yourself, going to court and listening to the doctor tell the judge that he's the professional, that he's been treating many people, and he's licensed to do that, and the parents request to block this medication is not a good request. And it might be that the judge would side with that doctor himself being, having your conservatorship taken away from you and turned over to the public guardian's office. So the challenge here is to work with the doctor in that case. You want to work with them, ask the doctor for his opinions, share with them what medications have had really good success in the past, and so forth. The downside of being a conservator, well, oftentimes you're going to find that your conservatee is going to be asking for money, and if they are dual diagnosed, meaning they have a substance abuse issue and they want that 10, 15 extra dollars, and you're saying no, but they're not taking no for an answer. It's a lot of stress. Also, if your loved one's decompensating and you have them put into the hospital, you might find the hospital staff trying to push you around and discharge the patient to a facility not appropriate for the level of treatment that's really needed for your loved one's recovery. You want to remember that as conservator, if your loved one, let's say, decompensates and they're placed into a hospital, and that hospital decides that they would like to, which is common, take them out of their hospital and move them to a different hospital someplace, maybe even out of county, they can't do that without your approval. You have the right to go to that facility that they want to move your loved one to and see if it's appropriate for their level of care and need. And if it's not, you can come back and express that and say, no, this is not an appropriate setting. My son or daughter is co-occurring with substance abuse, and right across from that facility, and they do have day walks, there's a pot dispensary right across from there. So that's just not going to work. And communicate with them. But you have that authority, and you can tell that first hospital that's taken in your loved one on a 5150 that they cannot transport without first notifying you and getting your approval.
Mhm.
Okay, next slide.
Well,
Did
let
you
me
want
just
to
say,
add to that, please? I'm sorry, I didn't see
yeah,
you.
I just wanted to add on that. When you take your loved one, when they're being transported to a facility that you've approved, they're going to ask you as the conservator, if you are the conservator, to sign papers. Be sure to write on that paper, it's giving them permission to treat, but you write on that paper, any change in treatment, placement, or medication must have your written expressed permission. Not just a verbal, it's got to be written because talk is cheap and they can deny, and they will. So you want to put that on there because they'll change medications and you're going, geez, what's happening to my loved one? You have no idea that they changed the medication and they won't even tell you. So by putting that in writing, it really helps and it keeps the conservatorship legality in your hands. When you sign that paper, a lot of facilities take over like, well, you know, we're the conservator, we know what we're doing, and we're not going to talk to you about it. And you don't want that to happen. And keep in mind, you do have contact with the doctor. Keep the conversation short because the doctors have a lot of patients to deal with. And if you need to talk to them again, you want them to be able to talk with you. So you have to be a little bit concerned about that. Okay, next slide. Liability for the conservator. This is the law 5358.5. These are important if you are the conservator to know these. You are not by law liable either civilly or criminally for anything the conservatee may or may not do. But let me just say, they temporarily suspend their right to drive a car. While they are under the conservatorship, you can get that back if you are the conservator and if you feel they should have it. If the public guardian is the conservator, then they won't get that back because they don't want that responsibility. But let's say they've taken away their right to drive the car. You give them the keys to the car and you say, could you go up the street and get a gallon of milk? What happens when they do that, if they're in an accident or something, you are liable at that time. But if they took the keys without your permission, you are not liable. And you are not financially responsible for any of their debts. Anything that comes up, hospital bills, nothing. You are not responsible for anything. Okay, Marisela, do you want to add anything?
No, that you've I like your example, clarifying the person taking the car versus you handing them the keys.
Right. Okay.
I'd like to add into that, and that is that let's say for a for example that your loved one has an upset and they are not able to handle their emotions well, and in the course of being upset, they go around and break a few things around the facility, punch holes in the wall, break a toilet. Been there, done that. Even though I knew that I was not going to be uh, liable for the cost of repairing that, I covered it anyway because I felt that that's only appropriate. But then also, I'm wanting that facility to appreciate the fact that I did cover it. And there's always the concern that, there's actually an organization of all of the board and cares, and they all talk to each other. And you don't want bad press to go out on your loved one. So if you can afford to cover it, I think it's something you want to seriously contemplate. I think it kind of is appropriate. But there again, if you can't financially afford it, it's understandable, and you're not going to have to pay for it in any means. Okay, next slide. So the rights and responsibilities for the LPS conservator. You have the power to approve or disapprove all medications, treatment, and placement. You have full authority. No one can take that away from you. Just again, a reminder to work with your doctors on medications, placement. Again, you want to find a place that is best and most appropriate for your loved ones. Be aware of what's around those placements. Are there facilities in the area and so forth. So anyway, you're in control when you're the conservator. Gail, do you want to add to that?
I do. On the placement, when your loved one's in the hospital and they're going to be placed in a facility, the hospital should seek, it's now called bed management. Well, it was intensive care division, but it's now bed management. They should come out to the facility, to the hospital, evaluate your loved one, and they make suggestions for usually about 3 facilities. Go and tour every one of those and make a list of questions that you want to know about. In other words, how often do you have group therapy? How often do you have therapy? If they don't do the therapy, how do you encourage them to do it? Medications, if they go off their medications, do you notify me, because you are the conservator, that they are off their medications? If they're off their medications, you want to get them in the hospital immediately to get them started back on their medications. Your goal is a forward recovery for their illness, not to just let it linger. So don't wait on that. Go right away, get started on that. We'll cover that section shortly. Of course, everything we're telling you sounds like, oh yeah, this is, I just do this, this, and this. You still have to fight for almost everything. But ask those questions about the facilities, talking directly with the doctor. Sex, you don't want to become a grandparent while they're there, or I don't think you do. So ask them how they handle sex in the facility. Are guys on one side, girls on another? Can they commingle? They cannot make them not commingle, but sometimes there's things that they can do to kind of squelch a little bit of that and to let you know what's going on. So be sure that you ask. Taking them out. When do they let you take them out for outings? Um, how they work to encourage the loved one in their recovery. But have your list of questions and be sure to ask those. That's really important. Okay, next slide.
So the conservators have the right to speak directly with the treating doctor. You have the right to apply for the SSI, SSDI, Medi-Cal, Medicare, or any veteran benefits that they may have. And you can have private insurance, Medi-Cal and Medicare, all at the same time. And how that would work is that your private insurance is going to be the first insurance that is going to pay on a bill, whether it's a hospital bill or otherwise. And whatever they don't cover, then Medi-Cal or Medicare will come in behind them and pick up the rest of the remaining costs that haven't been paid. Gail?
No, I think you've covered it all.
Okay.
When you apply for SSI and SSDI, if you are the conservator, you don't need your loved one's signature anymore. You take your conservatorship papers and you can do that. And that's really important. If you don't have those, the SSI, SSDI, Medi-Cal, Medicare, and all that, and you're working to get the conservatorship, go to Social Security and ask them to help you fill out the forms. Do not say you're applying because they will shut you off. But you want them to help you fill out the forms. They will know what's available for them. They'll ask you questions and they'll tell you whether you're qualified for SSI or SSDI or whatever. Okay? But do that, get those things started. Those open doors for treatment. Right, next slide. The California Welfare and Institutions Code 5358.5. There are sometimes, depending on who's at the helm of DMH, that this is a piece of cake. But sometimes it's not. And right now we're kind of fighting to get this one through. This is the law that allows you, as the conservator, when you feel you need to have your loved one taken to the hospital, when you deem it's necessary, the police are supposed to pick them up and transport them to the hospital. That is the law. And it's in the Welfare and Institutions Code. That's where it's at. What you can do several ways. Take a copy of your conservatorship, a copy of the law, and just a written paragraph that you sign stating that you are requesting that the police pick your loved one up and transport them to the hospital. Now, if you have, and they should have a doctor, psychiatrist, if the psychiatrist can find a bed in a facility, then the police are more inclined to take them right away because they can take them, drop them off, and they're done. And that's where they can get their medicines jump started. The longer you wait, the more treatment they're going to need. In other words, they've gone off their meds for a week or so. You want them transported to the hospital to get them jump started back on. The hospital's the only place that can force the medications. So you want them back in there. The longer you wait, the more their brain decompensates and the harder it is to get them over there. So don't wait. Do it right away. They can usually give them the medication and discharge them. And they don't tend to do that again after that. They don't like the ride to the hospital. Riding in a hospital gurney is not pleasant. It's hard on your back. Okay. We used to be able to call, I think we can still call Miriam. Marisela, do you know if we can still do that?
I believe so, but I can double check.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we used to call her and she would see that this was taken care of and to help you to get it all organized. And if she would need a copy of your conservatorship to know that the person is being conserved, and the outreach and triage can help to coordinate to get everybody, all the ducks in the row to get them to the hospital. Marisela, you want to add anything?
No, I think you covered it all. Thank you.
Okay,
I would like to jump in.
okay.
And that is that as a conservator, yes, you do have that right to hospitalize your conservatee, but getting them to go there isn't something that they always are wanting to go along with. So even if you call for, a 5150, you have the teams come out, and even if the police were to come out to wherever you're at, your home or wherever you're calling for the 5150, a lot of the police will no longer transport, even though it may be in the law, may be in the Welfare Institution Code. There were lawsuits in San Diego called Hayes versus San Diego. There's a Senate and Assembly bill both that are not favorable to police putting hands on someone that is suffering from a mental health situation for concern of physically harming them. And it puts the police at risk if they do even accidentally harm somebody with a mental health issue. So a lot of times here in Orange County especially, I mean, the police have come to our home, wouldn't even step into the house, and just said, well, your son may be running to the back door. We're not going to chase him. I don't know. I know that Los Angeles has tried several different ways of getting people to the hospital, and there's been challenges. Orange County, we haven't deemed much better, but just do your best that you can. Try to get somebody. But I want you to know that if you end up having to take your loved one to the hospital yourself, that can be dangerous. I've had that experience in the past. I put the child locks on. I convinced my conservatee to sit in the back seat. And I thought, great, I've got him in there. He can't get out. I'm going to go all the way to the hospital. Only to forget to put the locks on the windows. And as I'm going down the freeway at about 70 miles an hour, he's opening the windows and trying to climb out the window. And I'm trying to hang on to the wheel and hang on to him both. And so it can be very dangerous. On another occasion, my loved one grabbed the steering wheel and we went head on towards a tree. And fortunately, I was able to get the vehicle stopped before we hit the tree. But just know that it can be very dangerous trying to transport somebody who is decompensating, putting them in your car and going down the road with them. That is just really risky. So if you have others that can go with you, please take them with you.
Yeah, I'd like to add something to this. When you're doing the 5358.5, and you have to stand your ground on the laws, you do not need to have somebody evaluate them. It is not a 5150.
Right.
The court has already stated they are gravely disabled. If anybody wants to contest that, they have to go to court. Otherwise, they're in contempt of court. The court has said they are they are gravely disabled. So that's qualification for 5150. And we used to have in LA Dee Dee Hammond, who was awesome. And she was going to the roll call for the police departments, the various police departments, and some of them still do this. And she was explaining the 5358.5. And they were going out, if the person was under the conservatorship, they didn't call for an evaluation, picked them up, put them in the car, and took them off. That's why I say don't wait for them to decompensate, because as they decompensate, they can get to be dangerous. If they go off their meds, you want to do it within a very, very short time. I mean, give them a day or two to try and do the meds, but if they're not going to do them, don't wait. Just get them off to the hospital.
Right.
Call a bounty hunter.
Yeah. In fact, the hospital is the only place where we can force somebody to take their medications. And it's ironic, Gail, that you say bounty hunter, because there is one nurse that I know of that has a son who is her conservatee. And that's exactly what she did. She convinced a bunch of bounty hunters that was within the law for them to transport her son, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
She's thinking that might just be a solution. So
it is. It's a good solution because they can put the hands on.
They can.
Yeah. But you may, if you ask a bounty hunter, you may have to pay them. And you didn't hear this from us. We didn't say a word about it.
No, we're not suggesting this. I'm just sharing information.
Yeah. I didn't know that. But I was going to say maybe go meet once you have your letters, go meet the watch commanders at your local police station. Give them a copy of your letters so they are familiar with you. If you do need to call them, you've contacted them. You've introduced yourself to them, and you can always ask for them directly so they can get officers out to your home.
And that's very helpful. Working with your police department. By the way, when the police do something for you, write the watch commander and tell them who they are and what they did and how much you appreciate it. It makes a world of difference, not just for you if you have to call them again, but for other people, because they're not always given the accolades. And when they come out on mental illness, they don't like coming out on this, because if they take them to the hospital, they have to wait for somebody to come and do the evaluation and accept them. They prefer taking them to jail because it's just sign and be done. So be sure to compliment and give the accolades and that sort of thing to the police for helping you out.
I agree.
Okay, next slide.
Yep. So,
California Welfare and Institutions Code 5358.5. Conservatee by court decree is gravely disabled. Conservator can request police transport to a hospital for treatment. Hospital is the only place where medication can be forced. As conservator, you are authorized to detain and treat.
Can you elaborate on the detain and treat in the paper for that?
Yeah, so there's a form that you would indicate the powers or the orders given to you as conservator by the court, and that paper, the ADT is the authorization to detain and treat, will indicate to the hospital what they are able to do. So it would let them know that they can hold them and also administer medications.
Marisela, is the detain and treat, is that in the that booklet that you give to conservators on that what is it?
The form, the helping your
thing
loved ones. I don't I'm not sure it's on there.
in the 10th edition?
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it is or not, but I can skim through it to see if I see it now.
Could you do me a favor and send me
Yeah,
a copy of that if it's not in there?
will
And
do.
put that in the guide for conservators.
Okay.
Thank you. Next slide. Oh, there you go. You got some of it.
So, yeah, this is the authorization to detain and treat. So it has the two who with a hospital or facility you are giving that to, the person who is being detained, and then information, last name, first name, and the powers. You would check the powers that the court has granted you.
When you get your conservatorship papers, they have powers on there, and be sure you read those and you know what they are. Okay, also, by the way, when you get your conservatorship, always ask the judge to assign you an attorney. Should you have any problems during the year, they're freebies. You can call that attorney and ask them whatever, problem came up. And they're very helpful. So they're attorneys that understand LPS conservatorships. So always ask to be assigned an attorney. And if you haven't been assigned an attorney, write the court and ask them if they could assign you an attorney. All right, next slide. Jim?
Yes, CalAble. This basically CalAble is a government agency, and let me just, I had something that I had printed out basically on CalAble. You can set up a account for your loved one through CalAble that are monies that can go, above the $2,000 mark without your loved one losing their Social Security. You can accumulate savings up to $100,000 without the risk of losing federal or state benefits. And you can grow your investments for your future and earn investments tax-free when withdrawals are used to pay for qualified expenses. You can pay for qualified expenses directly from your account or with our prepaid debit or their prepaid debit card. So it will cover a whole host of things. I think, does the next slide have some of those listings? Marisela, can we look at 21? Yes. It'll cover education, housing, transportation, employment, health, and prevention, wellness, accessory technology. If they need a computer, you can buy them a computer. You can buy them personal support, whatever that might be, and miscellaneous expenses. I had a case where I had to pay a higher than normal amount of money that Social Security was paying me for my loved one's board and care. So I was, in a position to have to pay out of pocket to pay the difference, which would penalize him. So I joined CalAble and was able to put the monies into CalAble first, then draw them back out and make up the difference in rent and without penalty. So just go online, just go to CalAble and, the state of California, and you'll find all of this information on there. They have all sorts of videos and so forth explaining how things work and how the program can best help you and your loved one. So I think it's a great website. The monies that you can deposit, like I say, up to $100,000, you can either have that monies invested so that it accrues money as it's in there building up, or you can just have it secured so that it's safe and you don't have to worry about any of that being lost for any reason. So,
Jim,
yes.
let's say your loved one doesn't need the CalAble funds anymore. Can you withdraw those funds that you put in
That's
there?
a good question. I don't have that, but you know what I will tell you is that they have phone numbers on there, and people are always on the standby to answer questions just like that, Gail.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay.
Next slide.
The LPS conservatorship of the estate. If you have it of the estate, and the public guardian has it of both. So if they get conservatorship of the person, they also have it of the estate. You can negotiate debts, call the creditors, and if there's money, you can work with them 10 cents on the dollar, 25 cents on the dollar, whatever you have that you can work with them. But if you're going to pay off a debt, tell them that you want in writing that this debt is now free and clear, because otherwise you can pay off it and then they only apply it towards a little bit of it, and that debt's still accumulating. You can handle the court cases. You can acquire a waiver for school loans, and that is a biggie because some of those school loans are pretty healthy. And basically, as long as your loved one doesn't make above poverty level for the next 3 years, then that school loan will be totally dismissed, which is a big help because it's really a burden on your loved one if they have to work and pay off the school loan and all these other things. You can cancel credit cards. There's a lot of things you can do if you have the conservatorship of the estate. But be sure to ask the court to appoint you an attorney should you have any questions during the year, because you don't want to do anything that would jeopardize your situation or their situation. Next slide. Jim?
So conservator must have court approval for all invasive medical treatment. So if your loved one, let's say, needs to go to a dentist, and this is really perplexing to me, because I've been told by attorneys and others that invasive medical treatment would be if they have to break the skin with a needle. So, gosh, if they're going to put Novocaine in, that's invasive medical treatment. I've had other attorneys say, "Oh no, for dental, that the court, you don't have to go to the court and get permission for that." I will let you know that there was a daughter here in Orange County that was conservator of her mother, and the mother needed a very urgent operation on her stomach. It was a critical kind of a situation, but it wasn't so critical that her mother would die if she didn't go to the court first. The daughter didn't understand the law. She approved of the operation, and then the public guardian's office and the courts came after her to remove her from conservatorship. So you just know that if there's any invasive medical treatment that your loved one's going to get, you must first go to your court and get approval from them. So it's really a kind of gray area in my mind, even though the way it's presented, it's not a gray area. But I would say if you have any doubts at all, do not hesitate to go to your court, contact them, ask them if you need their approval on whatever it is that you're wanting to do for your loved one. But again, any invasive medical treatment requires court approval first. Gail,
Right.
you want to add to that?
I do. That's why if you have the attorney assigned to you, you can contact your attorney. The next day at court, they can get the approval for you, so it shouldn't be a problem. And when it comes to attorneys, that's why you have attorneys, because they never agree on anything. So you have one will say one thing, one will say another. Cover yourself. Just get the court approval. Call your attorney and just say, I need this, and it's a done deal. Anything where you break the skin. Marisela, you want to add to this?
I see a question on the chat regarding that. Do we want to answer that? Or
What
are
is the
we?
question? What is the question?
It says, my son is super religious and takes his shots of Invega because it's court ordered, but refuses to see any doctor or dentist or meds. Doctor advised surgery for I'm going to mispronounce this, pilonidal cyst, but he refuses. What is my responsibility?
That's where, Marisela, you want to answer that?
Yeah, so I would, if you have an attorney, I would, like Gail said, suggest you contact your attorney and ask for them to petition the court for authorization for that medical treatment. And the court will require documents from the doctor explaining what the treatment is, and if the person knows what the recommendation is and what the risks are associated with that treatment.
And the new law, the gravely disabled, basically gives you permission for the medical treatment if it's necessary medical treatment. So, on that cyst, that would be necessary. Okay.
All right. I think bottom line is just cover yourself on that. Gail,
Right. Okay. Medical emergency, we just talked about that. All non-medical emergency, non-emergency invasive procedures get the approval. No experimental treatment is permitted when somebody's under an LPS conservatorship. And so a lot of times you have these UCLA, they'll have, your loved one can join a group. But keep in mind, on those, you have your placebo people, which aren't getting the treatment as opposed to the others. But this is still experimental. They cannot join in any of that. So you don't want to do it unless it's like a verbal thing, you know, can you type 20 words a minute or 60 words a minute? You know, we're just experimenting on that or something. But if they're doing anything medicine, you cannot do that. Request all medical issues to be approved by the department A or B, whichever department you're in. Okay, at the mental health court, the one in Norwalk. Marisela, you want to add to that? Medical emergencies?
No, with a medical emergency, the the hospital that's treating your loved one would be able to follow their emergency medical protocol procedures, and they wouldn't require your authorization for that.
Okay, next slide. Conservatorship, you have direct contact with the treating doctor. This is a biggie. Some treatment facilities say, well, you don't talk to the doctor. That's one of your questions when you go in and talk to them. As a conservator, yes, you have that right. But don't drive the doctor nuts and call them every day. Usually you can work through the social worker or the charge nurse or something like that. You have the right for the prognosis, medications, side effects of medications, and anything that you need to know. Now, when they're in therapy, you don't have the right to know what's going on in therapy. You don't. But if you have a therapist that's a quack, you have the right to get rid of them. By the way, your rights are to approve or treat or disapprove the treatment, placement, and medication. If you have a quack doctor, get another doctor. You know, if you have a quack therapist, get another therapist. You don't have to keep that same person. If the doctor refuses to speak with you, contact the public guardian, James Quan, who's the supervisor for the public guardian. You can call me and I'll probably refer you over to him. But that right to speak with the doctor directly is really important. Have your questions ready to go. Don't dawdle and go, oh, and don't give them a whole history about when they were born and when they were 5 years old. They don't have time for that. Now, if you're paying for a very expensive, good doctor, psychiatrist, then they probably will ask you questions on that. But most of the psychiatrists that are treating people under LPS, it's usually in a facility, and they really don't have that time. All right, anybody want to add anything? Next slide, then. Criminal court cases. When your loved one has a criminal court case, take your history, symptoms, and gravely disabled with you to the court. Give that to the public defender and request that they contact Department of Mental Health, the linkage program, that's the number for them, and get them involved in the case. The linkage program opens doors for treatment. You can request the ODR, it's the jail or diversion program for misdemeanor or felonies. They have it for both, depending on what they do. But they can help you with that. And usually, if they are good with their misdemeanor jail diversion program or their felony, many times they will dismiss the case at the end of the time if they've completed it, or they'll knock it down so it's really not that big of a deal. So you really want to have these programs involved. Now, I was talking with James Quan the other day, and the way they're doing it in Los Angeles, not all counties have the jail diversion program. We have it because there was a judge that started this. We're very fortunate. But on that, if you get your LPS conservatorship, then they go to the jail diversion. That's fine. If they're in the jail diversion program, then they will not do the LPS conservatorship because they're saying, well, they've already agreed to work with something. I like LPS and jail diversion because I consider your LPS as your insurance policy. They go off their meds. Where do they go? The hospital. Get them jump started back on the meds. They will be able to complete the program. So that's why when they go to jail, right away contact the treating doctor at the jail to initiate the LPS conservatorship. Give them that history, symptoms, and gravely disabled paper that we talked about yesterday, because that treating doctor has like hundreds of patients to deal with. He doesn't know one from the other. With that paper, he will know what he's dealing with, what's going on, and they can write a stronger case for treatment. When he does it, when the doctor initiates the LPS with the public guardian, call the public guardian and give them that information too. Get the LPS if you can, get it first, then the jail diversion. That way you've got both and you've got a pretty good chance of their recovery. The criminal court, keep in mind, the criminal court has the right for placement and treatment. You have to take second fiddle to that, but not necessarily to medication. So if the criminal court says we're going to send them to Patton or to another facility, you lose your right on that. The criminal court supersedes you. Marisela, you want to add anything to this?
Not at this time. But
Jim? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I did I do investigations for justice involved clients. So I
Mhm.
do want to say that one of our duties as investigators is to look for alternatives to conservatorship. The goal of a conservatorship is recovery, right? If there's a program that is able to help this person recover and not have to be under the restrictions of a conservatorship, we will look at different programs that are offered by the jail. There's programs that they can be linked to that have housing, that have mental health, and they can help them apply for their benefits as well. So the jail has a lot of programs that can be very helpful for a person with mental illness.
Good. Yeah. That's AOT, Care Court, and some of those full
The
service
j-
partnership.
there's case managers through the jail that would actually link them to services outside the community. Like they have other programs that are not the court ordered programs like AOT. So they would have to be voluntary. So if a person is severely it's not doing well and really needs involuntary treatment, then those programs would not be applicable to them. But a person who is maybe just needs a little more support in the community can be linked to those services directly through the jail.
Mhm. And what's nice, they do provide housing. So that's really a pretty
Yeah.
good resource. All right. Next, Kate, next slide.
Can't
Oh,
tell.
this is mine. I couldn't see the number on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Possible treatment programs and Mariceli, join in on this. LPS is the top because it's the one that mandates treatment. And if the person's a flight risk, it's also a good one because they can put them in a lockdown treatment facility. The other programs cannot. Now, they're not in a lockdown forever. As they start on their recovery and they get better and better, they're not going to need that lockdown. So they can go to a lesser restrictive facility. Assisted outpatient treatment, Linda Venice Nigel, I can never say her last name. She talked about that yesterday. You cannot be under an LPS and have AOT at the same time, but Care Court you can. So that would be kind of the difference. And Care Court originally was only for people with schizophrenia spectrum. Now they are including bipolar who have delusions, sort of things going on. Home Team is for homeless, and they do outpatient LPS conservatorships, and they're having pretty good success with that. There's another program, Full Service Partnership, which we really haven't included much in our programs, but I think we're going to start. All right. Maricela, you want to add to any of this?
I think full service FSP program is good for a client who's at home. You get additional resources. You have a case manager that comes and sees them in the home. You have a doctor linked to that program. So they have support from a case manager that sees them on a regular basis, and they can contact the doctor if they feel that the person is maybe needs some medication change, or if they see certain things going on with them, they may need adjustment.
Okay. Yeah, and assisted outpatient and care court, they'll go to your home too. All those
Yeah.
will. So there's a lot of programs in Los Angeles, and if you ever have trouble with a teen and they're not telling you things that are straight or whatever, don't hesitate to call and talk to the supervisor, because they want their programs to work, and if they know there's a problem, they can correct it. And not that the person's telling you something to be mean and not truthful. It's many times they've been told that, and so they just believe that that's the way it is. So call the supervisor, let them know what's going on. That's why you keep that journal of who you talk to, and they can make the correction or get to the bottom of what's going on. And they're very, very resourceful too. Next slide.
Medications. It's really important that you understand what medications are being prescribed for your conservatee. And one of the things, gosh, somehow it's not on the slide anymore, Gail, but drugs.com is a really tremendous website. It lists all the different medications that exist. It indicates sort of a range that medications are normally prescribed for, list a whole myriad of potential side effects that the drugs might actually bring about, and that type of thing. So, how can a layperson who doesn't know anything about medication work with a doctor, be given the approval to override a doctor's choice on medications without something that they can go to become knowledgeable about the very medication that the doctors are prescribing? So drugs.com is really critically important to know about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you tell me drugs.com you had to be a professional to get into it?
There was a couple of days here about 2 weeks back when I was trying to get in, and I found those questions being asked, are you a medical professional and that type of thing. But, I got in after that, and I don't know, maybe they just had temporarily thought that they were going to keep it for medical professionals only, but that doesn't seem to be the case, Gail.
Oh, okay. That's why I took it off.
Yeah, I
I'll
apologize
put
for
it
that. So I'm
back.
glad I brought it up. So you want to know, again, the slide talks about the fact you should be knowledgeable about the side effects, the dosages, when they should be taken, morning, night, that type of thing, or both. Uh, Gail is really into Chat GPT. And so she's preaching to me almost every day, Jim, are you on Chat GPT yet? That's .com. I love you, Gail. You're great. So the National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA, is also a source for you to go to. Just remember that what medication that works for one may not necessarily mean it's going to work for another person. So keep that in mind. Write in your journal, again, we were talking about keeping journals, the date that a medication has been prescribed, and then watch the behaviors. The goal is to find the best medication for clarity of mind with the least side effects. And so again, it's like, okay, on this date we started Latuda. These are what I noticed following that. These are the improvements, or these issues came up, or these side effects came that were so difficult for my conservatee to contend with that I had to go to the doctor and we discussed an alternative, that type of thing. So again, keep a journal, go to drugs.com, and be knowledgeable about your medications. You want to add to that, Gail?
Oh, I do.
I know you do. That's why I asked.
My favorite one.
I
First of
know.
all, on that NAMI family to family class, they have a great class on medications. So if you take that, that's really good. Now, this is my opinion. I am not a doctor or anything, but I've done this for so long, and I always ask people, what medications are they on? I can tell them what medications they are when they call me and they're saying, my loved one's been under conservatorship for 6 months or a year, and this is what he's doing. And I said, what medications is he on? I could tell them. Zyprexa, I've only had one or two people that it gave clarity of thinking, puts the weight on. I mean, if you're really, really thin, it's probably a good one to take. But it doesn't really give you a lot of clarity of thinking. It does give you some, but not much. Prozac, Depakote, Ativan, Seroquel, in my opinion, those are good for people who have a mental health problem, not a serious mental illness. Y'all have loved ones that have serious mental illness. You've got to up the ante. One that I tend to hear a lot of good about, I would say 85% of the people, it works pretty darn good. But there's that 15% that it doesn't. So keep in mind, what works for one doesn't work for another. But Invega tends to give you more clarity of thinking, more motivation, if it works for you, less side effects. Now, Invega and Risperidol are identical chemical compositions made by the same company, but it's how they're delivered in the system. Risperidol goes to the cell and all the organelles of the cell. So you tend to be more tired. You get clarity of thinking, but not that much. And you're not highly motivated. Invega goes to the nucleus of the cell. So you tend to be, if it works for you, more motivated, more clarity of thinking. I mean, you might take a nap in the afternoon, but that's about it. So that's a pretty good one. A couple others, Latuda, Latuda, may work for your loved one. Caplyta, Caplyta, is a good one. Cobenfy, Cobenfy. But if you're on Cobenfy, be sure and check with it that they don't have a kidney or a liver problem, because that wouldn't be the best for them. I'm trying to think. Vraylar, that's V as in Victor, Raylar. If your loved one has negative symptoms of schizophrenia, in other words, all the fun, he doesn't have any excitement in his life, he's a zombie basically, that's your negative symptoms of schizophrenia. The positive is the entertainment, the voices, the visuals, all that stuff, that's positive. Invega was the first one that actually covered people that had negative symptoms of schizophrenia. And now, and I can't remember whether it's Caplyta or Cobenfy, one of those also covers negative schizophrenia. Also the positive, but it will help with the negative. But those are just a few. Keep up with the medicines. Now, Chat GPT, and Jim hears me on this one all the time. If you haven't downloaded it, you really might want to download it on the App Store. They have it free, so it's kind of nice, but if you want to pay more and get into really more stuff, you can. If you are Googling something, you get what, 50, 100 websites, and most of them are redundant. The Chat GPT comes back and it gives it to you. And I will tell you, we were at the doctor's, and the doctor's, he's going into Chat GPT saying, okay, the person's on this, and this is what his illness is. Can I give him this medication? And Chat GPT came back and said yes. And I go, well, if the doctor can do that, put in an illness of anything you have. And it's not just for mental illness. You can put in an antique car. It'll tell you where it's sold from, the highest bidder, where to take it to, tell you all about your car. I mean, it tells you everything. It's quite, once you get into it, it's really quite fascinating. But on medications, it's a great thing to use when your loved one's on medications. And if the doctor wants to put them on a smorgasbord of medications, your powers as a conservatorship is to say, or conservator, let's find one medication that works for them. Then if we have to add, we will. If you put them on a smorgasbord of medications, which one's working? And which ones are working against each other? I mean, that's really bad. So this is why I like family members, if they can do it, to be the conservator. But if you can't, I understand that too, because I don't know your loved one, but they may be a doozy and really try to manipulate you. So sometimes it's better to turn it over to the public guardian till they calm down a bit. All right. Marisela, you want to add?
But even if the public guardian is a conservator, you can always communicate with the case manager, the medications that you believe have, or that you can share your notes so they can advocate on your behalf.
And that's helpful.
Yeah. So
Okay.
as long as your loved one does not deny you access to their information, you are able to share and receive information as well.
Yeah, you can always share, but it's the
Yeah,
receiving
the
might be,
receiving might be challenging. Yes.
yeah, and that's helpful. And also, if the doctor has them on a medication that's not the best, and you're trying to get them off of that because you're seeing like a lot of that tardive dyskinesia, you can ask that they order a medication review, and they can do that and find out what's going on. Okay, because unfortunately, there's some really, really good doctors, but there's some that are quacks. And you didn't hear that from me
No,
either.
we didn't hear that.
Next slide.
I just want to, that's fine, you can stay here on this slide. But I just want to pick up on what you said, Gail, about the fact that if you feel it's necessary to turn it back over to the public guardian's office, you can do so. And I just want to emphasize that to those that are listening in on this, is that if it becomes too overwhelming or there's problems, any valid reason as to why, whether it's going to be, maybe just for this month, you have to go out of state for some reason, you can ask for the public guardian's office to take over the conservatorship. And at some point down the road, when you feel it's appropriate that you can take it back on again, you can go back again to the court and ask that it be turned back over to you. So you touched on that, Gail. I just wanted to emphasize that and drive it home for everybody listening.
Okay. Oh, and you can also have two conservators, like a husband and wife or a son and a daughter or whatever.
Can you have two in LA?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's LA only let one, and now they allow two.
Oh,
And
they changed it. Great.
they did. Orange County's always had two,
Yes.
or you can have two if you want.
Right.
Okay. Next slide.
Okay, I guess it's going name on it. Guideline for medication. If your loved one's on medications and you're not sure if something's working or not, and you're thinking, well, let's take off some of these medications and find one that works the best, you should utilize what's called the scientific method. And that is that you change one single variable at a time. Find one medication that works the best and add, if necessary, after that. So if you just take them all off at once and you throw a whole bunch more on there, you're not going to know if that's working. Or if your doctor says, well, I like to take 2 or 3 antipsychotics, I get better results with that. You're not really going to know which one of those individual antipsychotics is doing the job. So talk to your doctor about that. Try to work peacefully with your doctor on that aspect. Gail, can I add to that?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
If you've got 3, you never know the side effects, which one's causing the side effect or whatever. But when you're talking with the doctor and you want to change a medication and try something different, instead of saying, doctor, I want you to do this, he's going to say, and where did you get your degree from?
Right.
What you can do is say, I've been reading about this medication and I'm thinking, or what do you think if we try a small amount of this and I will give you the feedback, what I'm observing? They tend to really like that rather than you telling them what to do. And you can say, what do you think about that idea? And usually they're pretty good. But I remember years ago, we had one doctor who was, telling the mother, you just pushy and this and that. And all medications are the same and it really doesn't matter what they're on. Well, he says, I'll show you. I'll go ahead, and he put her on Invega of all things. Well, the girl cleared up, and I mean, this poor darling, she was sick as they could be. The hallucinations were frightening that she was having. Cleared up, got a job, has now retired from her job. And all because of that change of the medication. And of course, the mother got a new doctor too, which made a big difference.
Mm.
So don't be afraid to fight for them. Now, if you're saying we're going to do hallucinatic, or not hallucinatic, I mean holistic medications, they will take you off as conservator. So you don't want to do that because those really don't work. You need the proper chemicals in your loved one's brain. But you can do the holistic, like, maybe a certain green tea is good and things like that you can do. That's not a problem. Maricela, want to add?
No, I think you covered it all. Thank you.
Okay, next slide.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's me. Formulary for medications. If medication is not listed in the insurance profile, you can request that the treating doctor write a formulary to request a new medication. This is something that Gail actually educated me on. And I had a situation where we were thinking that we needed to have a medication provided to my conservatee that wasn't covered. And the doctor said, that's not a big deal. He says, I'll just fill out this formulary and send it and they'll approve it. So that's really a great tip. And Gail, thank you for bringing that to my attention some time back. You want to ask the treating doctor if they have free samples to try for a new medication. And you should seek medications that help with a serious mental illness. Don't settle for just okay. You want your loved one to be restored back to their old self, And again, keep that journal filled out with all your med changes, your observation on behavioral changes along with those. Gail?
Yes. Go back to your photo album. Remember what your loved one was before. And you want to get them as close as you can to that point. Don't settle. And a lot of doctors, some, not a lot, but some doctors will go, well, that's the best you're going to get. You're just pushy. No, be pushy. You need to be pushy because you are their strongest advocate. And if they never feel good on that medications, they're not going to take it. So you want to get them to feel as good as they possibly can. All right. Maricela, did you want to add?
No, I think you've covered it. Just advocate for your loved one to get the best treatment that you can advocate for, and make sure that all the treatment team knows that you're there. You are available for questions, and that you are willing to work with them to help your loved one recover.
It makes a difference. Thank you. Next slide.
So placing a conservatee in a treatment facility. ICD meaning Intensive Care Division of the Department of Mental Health, evaluates and suggests where the person should be placed. You want to tour every facility and ask questions. Gail,
I'm going to interrupt real quick. Yesterday, James Kwan told us ICD has now been changed to bed management.
Right.
So, and I had sent this in before we had the change, before I knew about it. So I'll be changing that. But it's still the same phone number. So if you're looking in the resource section of that LPS paper that we put out, you will see that it's ICD. You can call them. It doesn't matter what they call them. They change names just to keep us on our toes.
Right.
Okay, Jim, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Jump in anytime. As conservator by law, your request for a placement facility must be honored as best as possible. So you want to write on every contract your express written permission must be given for any change in medication, treatment, and placement. I will tell you that here in Orange County, some of the very upstanding hospitals that we have violated this and have taken a conservatee and moved them over from Orange County to Long Beach, which is LA County, and they in turn dumped them out and moved them up to Culver City. So you need to know what your rights are as a conservator. You have the right to call that hospital that dumped them out and say, listen, you just violated the law. I've done this. You cannot move my conservatee without my express permission. And I need them back. And furthermore, the facility that you put them in, and again, I've done that, I know for a fact through discussions with others is not appropriate for the treatment that my loved one requires, and you will return them immediately. And they get the message. And this was a major hospital I had to deal with. So you just want to make sure, as it says down on the bottom, and I would suggest that you write this down right now, your expressed written permission must be given for any change in medication, treatment, and placement. Those are very, very necessary things to write. And I know that there have been times when my loved one's been placed into long-term or other facilities, and I pull out my fountain pen with a needle point on it, and I start scribbling away. And they go, excuse me, what are you doing? I said, I'm exercising my right by law to ad-lib to your contractual agreement. So it's very important that you know what your rights are. Just make sure that wherever it is that your loved one's going to go to is, in fact, the best treatment facility that you can get for your loved one. Next slide. Or Gail, do you want to jump in?
No, you covered it.
Okay. So placement and treatment via hospital. Hospital request intensive care division, ICD, to evaluate conservatee for placement. Person can only be transferred from a lockdown facility to another lockdown facility. Institute for Mental IMD is a lockdown facility where the hospital will first discharge the patient. As the patient improves, they might skip the IMD and be discharged to enhanced residential setting, ERS, which is a secure treatment facility, not a lockdown. So just remember that when your loved one's in a facility and it is a locked facility and they're going to be transferred, they can either be transferred over to another locked facility or a unlocked facility. But if your loved one's been placed into a unlocked facility, you can't have him transferred up to a locked facility. It has to be the same or less in placement. So keep that in mind. And Gail, your initials on there, so jump in here.
Oh, yeah, it is. No, I think you've covered it really well.
That's fine. So let's go to the next. Treatment and placement via jail. Generally, it will be in a state mental hospital. For example, there was a case here in Orange County where law enforcement did not transport. The individual ended up on the street in an altercation, assaulted somebody. By the way, she happened to be black belt, beat the poor Uber driver up and was arrested. They moved her up to Patton State Mental Hospital. And so that's generally what will happen if they've had a serious assault case like that. They will be up there until they are capable of realizing that they have committed a crime and can stand trial for that. And then at that time, they will transfer them back down to our local jail system here, and they will either go to court or they will go into a alternate program. But basically, they will at some time have to be held accountable for their actions. That's about as much as I know, Gail, and if you know more about that placement situation, please add into this.
Well, generally, if they're in jail and they're in a serious situation, they can put them in those facilities.
Right.
And if you're the conservator, you can't say no, they're not
Right.
going to go there. You lose that right because it's a criminal course that supersedes you. Sometimes they'll put them in these other programs. They cannot put them in an AOT if they're under an LPS conservatorship, but they can put them in other programs if Patton and Metropolitan are not appropriate. If they have a misdemeanor, then they're not probably going to do that. Marisela, did you want to add anything to this one?
I do. The laws changed a little bit.
Okay,
And
right.
so I can't recall the Senate bill that changed it, but now they don't necessarily have to go to a state hospital for treatment. So if the court finds that it may be in the best interest of justice to not have them return to competency, then they do not have to be sent to a state hospital. The court can then order an investigation for conservatorship at that time. And this is for felony cases.
Right. That would be the 1370.
At
Under-
1370, yes,
Okay.
under the 1370.
Okay. And that usually they are trying to get them competent for 3 years, and they're refusing medicine. That's usually what it is. And so then they do a 1370 where they order the LPS because then they have to take the medicine. So that's generally why they do that. And they generally will send them to Patton or Metropolitan if it's a felony and a serious crime. If it's not a serious crime, sometimes they'll just send them to an IMD or something.
Right. And this change in law doesn't apply to serious felonies like murder and the most severe felonies. They won't apply to them. But yeah, the 1370 is also the law. The term now is 2 years instead of 3.
Oh, well, that's good.
Wow.
Okay. All right. Next slide.
So the normal movement through treatment facilities. All right, an IMD Institute for Mental Disease, also known as a lockdown facility. The enhanced residential settings, ERS, secure facility. Board and care is your least restrictive. So I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. They must go from a lockdown, whether it's hospital or jail, to a lockdown. Again, remember, they can be moved sideways. The conservatee may skip a facility and go to a less restrictive facility as they improve in their recovery process. And as well, no longer a flight risk. Keep in mind, you can't go from a less restrictive to a more restrictive environment, like board and care, and then up to an IMD. It doesn't work. They can't work that way. So the goal is to get them into the same kind of a setting, placement for the recovery, and then move them down as they're improving. And when they're no longer a flight risk, then they can go into a facility where it's not locked. Next slide. Marisela.
The slide hasn't changed.
Yeah.
There we
Oh,
go.
there it
It's
is.
Gail.
Okay.
Down
The
both sides.
doctor can request the court remove you as a conservator, and Jim talked about this earlier. If you're not reasonable, the doctor can request that you be removed as a conservator, and we've had that happen before. If that happens and you have a situation, you can go to the court and say, Your Honor, this is what the doctor's been wanting me to do, and I'm not doing it. If it's reasonable, the judge might keep you as a conservator. But if you are unreasonable, then they can remove you. I'll just give you one quick, it was a small example, but there are bigger ones. The girl had heightened sexual delusions. The mother's a conservator, and I don't quite think the mother was of sound mind like she should have been. And she gives her the book 50 Shades of Gray or whatever that is to read. My daughter likes to read, so I got her that book. They removed her as conservator. I mean, because the girl's having some serious sexual problems, but are delusions actually. So they removed her because, I mean, that just was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
The treating doctor can request that you be removed as conservator, or you can change a doctor. So keep in mind it can go both ways, but try to work with the people you're working with. Keep in mind you are not their only client, and they have a lot of people they have to deal with. So be considerate of their time. Don't get on the phone and start talking and talking. They don't really, they've heard it all before in one form or another. And they like for you to be respectful. If you're respectful, they'll work with you. But if you have a doctor, and I'm sorry to say there are quack doctors out there, you know, in every line of work, there are people that are excellent and people that you wonder about. If you've got a good doctor, work with that doctor and find the best medications, the best treatment for your loved one to get them on the road to recovery. And the other thing is give your loved ones some hope in life, and this is not on the slide. For instance, and I'm going to make these few suggestions. They're recovering, they're doing well. Mentally, think about how they are. What is my future? What kind of a future do I have? They may want to go back to work, but they're not ready for a 40-hour or 30-hour work. There are programs like, I think Team One, Manpower, or whatever they call them, where they will call them and they will say, look, we have a job tomorrow, maybe setting up tables for a convention, setting up the chairs and all. Do you think you might like to do that? And they'll get paid for it. And then they can say, no, I'm not going to take that tomorrow, or they may want to take it. I'll give you an example. One, which is in Hollywood, which is, they love it. It's, you go, you get paid $20 an hour, and you're in the audience for comedy or for some of these live shows that they do. And as my son says, easiest job in the world. They hold up the sign, applaud, laugh, boo, whatever. And you sit there and you get $20 an hour for just to do that. But it gives them a sense of pride and a sense that they're earning their own money. These are things to help them with. I think SSI has a return to work program that they can go in, and it won't affect any of their services. So just think about that, how rather than having them sit around and do nothing. If even jobs that you have at home, hey, I'm going to hire somebody for such and such. If you would like to do it and you think you can do it, I'll hire you. That kind of thing. So that they have a sense of well-being. Okay, next slide. The conservatee's loss of rights. Temporary restrictions for the conservatee. They lose the right to drive a car, enter contracts, and to determine where they live. On the road to recovery, actually, they will, they can get this back. So under a conservatorship, and that booklet that we were talking about at the beginning, that has the information. To get the right to drive a car, you write a letter to their doctor saying that you believe they're ready to drive a car and they're responsible enough for it. The doctor will fill out a form. It's one page, no big deal, just basically their autograph. Give it to the court. You give it to the court, and the court will say, okay, they can drive a car. They will inform DMH that they can have their driver's license reinstated. And DMH may, or DMV, I'm sorry, DMV may say, well, we want to do a safety assessment, which they go in, it's name, rank, and serial number. Okay, you sound good to me. Go get your driver's license, that sort of thing. It's not a big deal. It's really easy to do. Entering contracts. We've had people get married. They've had to be able to enter into a contract. They did that. As they get better, they can determine where they live. Hey, I don't want to live at the board and care. How about if I get a roommate and we rent an apartment together? Why not? You have outpatient treatment programs that they can go to, so they don't always have to be in a board and care. And some, by the way, check out those board and care. Some of those are terrible and some are pretty good. So you want to check them out. The more permanent restrictions are for a conservatee's right to shoot and possess a gun. And those are some that basically, could be a problem. Okay, next slide. Oh, that's me too. Hold on a second. I realized my computer was plugged into another spot and it wasn't. I'm wondering why I'm running out of power. Okay, to reinstate the right to drive a car. I mentioned how to do that. And enter contracts, you just write a note to the court that you would like them to be reinstated for entering contracts. Next slide. Renewal of the conservatorship. Marisela?
Yeah, renew the conservatorship, you should start it early because you need to get a hearing date, and you also need that declaration from the doctor, from two doctors stating that the person continues to be gravely disabled. So this is when having an attorney appointed on your behalf becomes very helpful because they can file that petition for reappointment on your behalf.
Yeah, the two doctors, if I can make a suggestion, they're under the care of a treating doctor, and that treating doctor usually has somebody else that they know, and they can have them just talk to him and then sign off on it. So it's usually not a big deal. Next. Hello.
There we are.
Oh, okay. Gravely disabled. Marisela?
Gravely disabled is a legal term for someone unable to provide for their basic needs like food, clothing, shelter, personal safety, or necessary medical care due to a severe mental health or substance use disorder. So this is the new definition starting in 2026, right? The substance abuse and mental health and medical care. Now provides for personal safety or medical care. Personal safety is the ability to survive safely in the community without involuntary detention or treatment. Necessary medical care means a licensed healthcare practitioner as care that is necessary to prevent serious deterioration of an existing medical condition. Still leaves if someone is willing to provide food, clothing, treatment, the person is not gravely disabled. So it adds two more categories, but it still has the same requirement. The person has to be unable to provide for food, clothing, or shelter.
So if your loved one's in the hospital and they say, will you provide that, can you take them home? If you say yes, they're not considered gravely disabled. And Jim, you had a situation at the court, if you would like to tell us about that, on that last part, what they were asking you.
I'm not remember which one that was.
When they asked if they didn't do the conservatorship, would you be taking your home?
Sure. Yeah, now I remember. Primarily, I was trying to, and I did, reapply for conservatorship, renew the conservatorship for another year. And of course, there's all the paperwork that we fill out 3 months prior to that, and we turn it in to the court, and we send it out to the public defender's office and everybody else. And I had somebody from the public defender's office call me on the phone, and they were very nice and very polite, nice warm phone call. And they're pretty sly at that, by the way. And they said, Mr. Farell, we're looking at the fact that you're wanting to, renew your son's conservatorship. And well, I was just wondering, in the event that your son were to be taken off of conservatorship for some reason, would you still continue to provide for his needs and help him out as needed? And I thought, oh, trick question. And I said, well, no, I won't. I said, if my son's taken off conservatorship, it will be because he's no longer gravely disabled, meaning that he will have full capacity to take care of himself and provide for his own food, clothing, or shelter. And I said, so he won't need my assistance, will he? And she just didn't know what to say. Thank you, hung up. But that's a trick question. I've even had a judge ask me that. Mr. Farell, if the same kind of a question. And if you say, oh, well, of course, even if my son's ill, no matter what, if I lose a conservatorship, of course I'll continue to take care of him and make sure that he gets food, clothing, and shelter. That's it. Conservatorship's over with. You've just said, hey, you're going to provide those services. So it's always, no. And the judge looks so shocked. You won't take care of your son? No, Your Honor. Because you and I both know if I say yes in this court, he's no longer eligible for conservatorship. And the judge just looked sheepish at that point. But I was polite about it. But nonetheless, know and understand that if you're saying that your son is not able to provide for his own food, clothing, or shelter, and you're saying that you're going to provide that, if he needs help, you're going to continue helping him, they're not eligible for conservatorship. So that's a sneaky way sometimes for the public defender's office here in Orange County
Get them off.
to get
Yeah.
them off. So
The difference between Florida and California says if someone is willing to provide for it, then they're not conserved.
precisely.
Florida says if someone has to provide their food, clothing, and shelter, they are gravely disabled because of their mental illness. I mean, if someone has to provide because of their mental illness, they are gravely disabled. Makes a lot more sense to me what Florida does, because when you think about it, the facilities, the hospital, the jail, the treatment facilities, everybody's providing it. So how is that different from asking a person, a family member, are you willing to provide it? It doesn't make sense to me, but that is a trick question. So just be aware of that when you're in court, because you're going to be stressed. So be aware if they start asking that kind of stuff, and they don't normally, but every now and then you're going to get it. So, okay, next slide. Araceli? The renewal?
oh,
Go ahead.
Conservator's court renewal, court hearing, so that the court will set a hearing for the reappointment of conservatorship, and it can either be done through the judge or a jury, depending on what the person asks for.
Okay. If you have a jury trial, and many times you might be, if you're the conservator, you might be hoping to select the jurors. The one thing you want to be careful about, and you cannot ask, are you a Scientologist? Because they would say right away, we're not going to conserve them. But you will have an attorney to be able to help you. You want to ask questions so that you can eliminate if somebody is a Scientologist, because they do not believe in LPSs. You also, this is just my suggestion. Somebody walks in with a lot of piercings and spiked hair and all this other stuff. Chances are they're not going to believe in LPS either. And your loved one needs that for their treatment. So picking 12 people in California that hopefully will all agree on the same thing is pretty stressful. Jim, you want to add anything?
Oh, I just agree with all that.
Okay.
Okay, so let me jump in on this. What happens if your loved one goes missing? First of all, you want to immediately call your local police department and let them know that your loved one's taken off and that they have a serious mental health condition, that you're the conservator, you have conservatorship papers and so forth. I've never had them come running out to my house and say, let me see your conservatorship papers, or ask me to bring them in. But someone that has a mental health condition is coming right up to the top in terms of the police placing them onto a missing persons report immediately. There's no waiting period involved. So again, like it says here, they go to the top of the missing person list under missing children as a dependent adult, and they do not even need to be on conservatorship. So if they're mentally ill, and you call them in. Now, let me share an interesting situation with you too, is that I've had, there's a website, as you notice down below here, it's outpostforhope.org. And so through them, I've had different people call me from around the country. And one in particular called me from Arizona. And when that parent tried to file a missing persons report to the Anaheim Police Department, they refused to take the report and put them on, because a missing persons report goes national. It's not just local. It's a national missing persons report. And so consequently, I called Chief of Police of Tustin that I had a working relationship with, who then called the Anaheim Police Department and said, hey, it's the law. You guys are required. The mother does not have to be here. So just know that if your loved one goes missing, that, if let's say you're out of state or something, and your loved one, of course, is not with you, you are off on business or something, and you get a call that your loved one's missing, you call it in. You don't have to physically be present to make that phone call and for them to follow it. In terms of the Outpost for Hope, this is a very unique website. The gal who runs that has actually been educating police departments about the laws and so forth that have been involved with that, and used to have some really magnificent videos on there in regards to this lady's sister that went missing. And unfortunately, they no longer show those. But let me just, there's just a little bit that I copied off the website and printed out. That according to the FBI, there's approximately over 85,000 missing persons reported in the National Crime Information Center, the NCIC database today. So that's over 85,000 people who are missing. But that number doesn't include the estimated 1.5 million people in the shadow population, the missing, and the kids off the grid. What does that mean? That means that there are individuals out there, like females, that go missing who are out there. They may be promiscuous because of their mental health condition, and they have a child. And of course, now they're out on the street for years with this child. And the child then is exposed to the drug dens and everything else. And nobody even knows this child exists. They don't even know that the child's missing. There was a case where the missing sister was found. She was returned. They discovered she had a child. So then the grandmother went to the court to get we call it custody of the child. And what they discovered, that when they had it with the other daughter's, the sister's family, who also had a child that was about 5 years of age, they couldn't put these two little girls together, because this little girl that had been raised on the streets had language that would make a Mack truck driver blush, and had seen the worst of the worst. And a lot of these children are sexually exploited as well. So it's very, very important that you know that there's thousands of Jane and John Does buried out across the United States. Nobody knows who the families are. It's a very serious situation. So I suggest that you go to outpostforhope.org. And then as well, in some of the videos that they used to play, they talked about the fact that if you have a loved one that shows indications that they may take off, or even if they don't show those indications, it would be good to have some DNA, whether it's hair and so forth. And Gail always talks about how that hair sample should be in a clean white envelope, not licked, just closed and so forth, so that it retains the DNA structure of the hair and so forth. So if your loved one does go missing, there have been cases where some good pathologists, or whatever their terminologies are, that deal with the deceased, were able to actually track down who the family members were through various criteria. So not only does this website have good information, but there's also the national database of missing persons is restricted to law enforcement only, and only they can put or take information out of that specific website. But there's another website as well that anyone can post a missing person in. So there's lots of good advice, things you can do. I suggest that you go there, and whether you have experienced that or not, and just be up to speed as to about what you can do as a parent to assure that your loved one's always going to be able to be found if they, for whatever reasons, decide to take off. Gail, I know you have had experience in this area, so why don't you jump in here if you would like to.
Right.
It's up to you.
Okay. If you know, we're going back to like LA or Orange County. If you know where your loved one might be, let's say in Santa Monica or downtown LA or something. Downtown LA, if you call me, Joseph Dion, or Dion Joseph, is a great officer down there, and he has found people for us that even give the wrong name because they believe they're somebody else. He's found them and we've been able to get them into treatment. But if they're in Santa Monica, Venice, places like that, go down there, walk the thing, take a picture of them. When you see a person who's has a, you know, doesn't, a homeless person, show them a picture. Have you seen this person? Have you seen this person? Let me tell you, the homeless people know a lot and they know everybody on the streets. And they'll tell you, yeah, I saw him. He was over at so and so. And it's amazing how they will help you find your loved one. If you're reporting a missing person in Los Angeles, there are um, four detectives. Basically, all they do, they don't leave their office, but they call the jail every day. Have they been there? They cannot call hospitals because of HIPAA, so you can't get it there. But if you are calling hospitals, don't call and say, "Is my such and such there?" Because they can't tell you that. But you can call and say, "Look, I had a call from my loved one from the mental health section of the hospital, and I'm trying to get back to him. Can you help me with that?" And I've had them tell me, "Ma'am, I can't tell you whether they're here or not, but maybe you might want to try another hospital." In other words, they're not there, that kind of stuff. And always when you talk to the hospitals, if you're not under conservatorship, hypothetically, if you have a situation like such and such, does the doctor initiate LPS conservatorships or something like that? They'll answer you. They know what you're looking for, and they can answer you. But going back to this, when you're doing that and you're going around, and the police, if you see the police walking the beat, ask them. They know the that's really important. When the police call you, let's say they find your loved one on the street and they call you, "Okay, we found him." They can only tell you that they're okay if the loved one doesn't want them to tell you anything. They can't tell you where they are. So what you can do is say, "I really appreciate that you're doing this. What I'd like to do is treat you to lunch. What restaurant is near that I can call and give them the charge card so that they can treat you to lunch? Is it Denny's on what street?" That's going to give you a lot of information as to where your loved one is. And then you can go and kind of look a little bit. But, and like Jim said, get DNA now. Whenever they're with you, and pictures, current pictures, do a family picture. They don't know the difference. And then you can whack everybody else out and just have them so that you have as current pictures as possible. Because when they go homeless, when they're home, they're shaved. If it's a guy or something like that, they look pretty good. But when they go homeless, if if they're going down the tubes, take a family picture, a selfie with them, so that you will have something somewhat current. It does help. Those pictures do help. Okay, Marisela, did you want to add anything?
Um, Only that I find that it sometimes can be a little frustrating to make the missing person report if you're calling your local law enforcement agency to make the report and you can't um, get the help that you need. You can always go to the watch commander. That's what I do, and then you'll get the help that you need.
Watch commanders are wonderful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next slide. That was a good tidbit.
Yeah, I agree. Sally?
Leaving the state of California. LPS is specific law for California. Must have court permission to leave the state. California presently does not have reciprocity with other states. So the conservatorship is only it's only in the LA County. So you can't say I'm moving out of state. Your conservatorship will not transfer with you. You likely have to find the applicable petitions that you need to file in the state that you're moving to get that conservatorship in that state.
That's true. And by the way, when the doctor is initiating the conservatorship, be sure they initiate it for the county, the residents of the person that you need to have conserved. for instance, if somebody's hospitalized in Orange County, but they're considered a resident of LA, and they pretty much go by where their Medi-Cal comes from, they would have to initiate it at the public guardian's office in the Los Angeles County. So just keep that in mind, because if they were in Orange County, hospitalized in Orange County, and they requested it through Orange County, and they find out that they're not a resident of Orange County, they have to dismiss it. And the doctors, you thought to get them to do it the first time. Good luck getting them to do it the second time. All right, next slide.
Okay, thank you for everyone for coming today. This is one of our last slides here. Thank you for your determination. By the way, congratulations on being a conservator and coming today to listen in on what we had to present to you. But, endurance to help your loved one. Gail says that when you think that you've had enough and you just can't take any more, and believe me, we get there, you could still give 10% more. That's the Navy SEALs model. The Navy SEALs, however, have not walked our road. They've not stood in our shoes. They don't do what we have to do. It's tough. So you want to keep really strong and take care of yourself. It kind of goes back to being sort of like when you're in an aircraft, you're flying at high altitudes, and let's say there's an air leak and the oxygen masks fall down and you've got a child next to you. You grab that mask and you put it on yourself first so that you don't pass out. Because if you try to put the oxygen mask on your young little child next to you, you might pass out and never get the mask on either one of you. So it's imperative that you keep yourself with the oxygen mask first. And what that means is stay strong, get good sleep, get someone to talk to about your issues, go to your NAMI meetings, stay strong, get sleep, eat well. You want to stay strong. I know sometimes you really get down, and my wife and I sometimes will take a supplement that helps with, and I probably can't give it out, but a supplement that helps with the depression when times get hard. There are things out there over the counter that you can explore, or go to your doctor and ask for something if it gets to be too overwhelming. But you can do this, and I have faith in all of you that you're able to continue on and take care. So you're your loved one's strongest chance for recovery. They need you, and I'm sure that all of you that are here today will do your absolute best in that regard. So thank you again for coming today. Have a next slide.
Wait, if I can make a suggestion, when you get down like that, sit down, watch a funny movie. It doesn't matter if you've seen it before, you still laugh at the same jokes. Have a cup of tea or a glass of wine or something and watch a funny movie. That funny movie will put the hormones back in your brain to pick you back up, and then get a good night's sleep. And the next day you're good to go. I mean, I've done that plenty of times. My husband was in Louisiana, I'm in California, fighting for this stuff. And I said, I've had enough. I quit. And he says, look, go watch something funny. We'll talk in the morning. And I'm ready to go in the morning. And he knew I would be. But that's true. That funny movie will help to regenerate your sense of humor and keep a sense of humor, whatever you do.
Right.
Okay. Next slide.
So one of the things that we will share with you is that today's program and all the ones that are going to be coming up in the future takes a little bit of extra funding for NAMI Urban Los Angeles. And so if you can, please, if you've enjoyed today's slide, please consider donating to NAMI Urban Los Angeles. This is an address that you can send the donation to, and if you will, please, earmark that. Say, note, this is for the LPS Conservatorship programs. So if you leave that up for a little bit, Araceli, and if you can't get all of this written down in time, you could call NAMI Urban Los Angeles, and while they have a donation there, what you might want to do is get their phone number and talk to somebody live and ask them for this mailing address if it's not on the website, so that you can mail in a check and say, I want to donate to the LPS conservatorship programs. We'd really appreciate that. So
We really do. If you can also note that it's for LPS Conservatorship program, that it goes directly to what we're doing.
yes,
But I also wanted to say to you that when you donate, and I've asked them to please let me know when I don't care how much you donate, but
yeah,
to let me know, because I like being from the South, we write thank you notes. Trouble is, I never know, so I can never write you a thank you note. But from those of you that if you can donate, if you can't, don't worry about it. I mean, I don't want you to donate if you can't, but I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because your donations help us to be able to continue this. And it really means a lot. And we don't just put on this program when people call and ask us for help. Hey, we're there helping to do whatever we can so that your loved one will get on the road to recovery. And I've had people tell me that, well, I hate bothering you. Tough luck for me. Bother me, because your kid's far more important than me sitting around maybe watching a show or something. Bother me, because your loved one's recovery gives them back their life. It gives you back a life. So bother us. It's okay. All right. I think that's it. Marisela, thank you very, very much. And Jim, and I guess we're going to have questions.
okay. Also, Araceli, could you put up Gail's and my phone numbers at least again?